Shalom, everybody from Jerusalem, and welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks. Now, it looks a little bit different today. I am in my hotel room. I have spent the day with my incredible ladies from Witso. Don't you love our gorgeous Witso bling? And we have been conferencing along with over 2,000 representatives from other organizations around the world. We're here in the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem. Now, as always, the Israel Brief is brought to you by Lay of the Land, and I'm reminding you that today is day 753 since the 7th of October, and we still have 13 of our beloved brothers held hostage, or their remains held hostage by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, last night we thought we would be getting back the body of another hostage, and there has been a really, really horrific turn of events related to that. So let's take a look at what has transpired over the last 24 hours. And yesterday, Hamas notified the mediators that they would return the remains of a deceased hostage to the Red Cross. This is in line with meeting the deadline that President Trump set for the return of all of the remaining deceased hostages. Now, as has been the procedure, the coffin was given to the Red Cross, who then gave it to the IDF, and they had their ceremony that they do on the receiving of remains of a hostage, to say psalms, to salute the deceased, and then the remains were taken to Abu Kabir, the Forensic Institute of Israel. And we found out today that the remains that were given were actually not of a hostage, but one of a hostage that whose remains had already been recovered at the end of 2023. The forensic testing proved that those remains belonged to Ofir Tsafarti, who was murdered at the Nova Festival. I cannot imagine the trauma of the family who have already had to open that grave 3 times as remains have been recovered, to do so again, to lay Ofir's remains to rest. I cannot imagine the trauma. To me, there is no bottom low enough that Hamas wouldn't sink to traumatize these families. The Hostage and Missing Families Forum called it utter manipulation and a violation of the ceasefire agreement. That was a response also echoed by the Israeli government, who also called it a violation of the agreement, and the government met during the course of the day to determine what kind of response. You can imagine the fury of the people here in Israel, the trauma of this family who have had to go through this again and again and again. Now, Hamas a short while ago notified the mediators that they would be handing over the remains of another hostage tonight. Now, what makes this even more horrendous is that Hamas actually staged this whole recovery. They staged this for the cameras. An Israeli drone happened to catch the footage of Hamas staging this whole recovery effort for the International Red Cross. The International Red Cross, who have acted as glorified Uber drivers throughout this whole just horrendous 2 years. You can hear the anger in my voice, and I'm sure you guys are angry at hearing what has transpired as well. We now go to the World Health Organization, where, according to the World Health Organization representative to Israel, Dr. Michel Tiran, who was speaking on a podcast a couple of days ago, he let slip, he said he was absolutely shocked that the idea of famine in Gaza had been discussed as early as December 2023. That and he goes on to say that the World Health Organization had already started to push this narrative of a famine in Gaza, to apply political pressure to Israel, and determine very quickly who victims and perpetrators in this war were. Or have been. He says he was absolutely shocked. There was no scientific proof, but they had decided this as early as 2023. Now, if you think about it, South Africa had also pushed in December of 2023 the whole genocide narrative. And we have been saying for years that the whole NGO ecosystem have created this narrative for years, in fact, for decades, of blaming Israel, as painting Israel as uniquely evil, to push this agenda of delegitimization. And now you can start to see the pieces of the puzzle fit together. So I really appeal to people, because there has been this rush to believe whatever is heard in the media, who just parrot this narrative that Israel is uniquely evil, that we are genocidal, that we are creating a famine, that we are an apartheid state, and nothing could be further from the truth. And now we are seeing the proof start to come out. So I ask you, as my Israel briefing community, that when you see these narratives pop up in your media, and when you hear them discussed in your communities, to challenge them now with the empirical proof. Now turning to something a little lighter, the president of Taiwan, Lai Ching-te, has called Israel's defense an example, a model for Taiwan to fight authoritarianism. And he actually referred to the biblical allegory of David versus Goliath, saying that this was a model that Taiwan could really lean on to fight Chinese authoritarianism. And if you think about it, Israel, this tiny country, smaller than the Kruger National Park in South Africa, smaller than New Jersey in the United States, smaller than Wales, fighting on 7 fronts and having these incredible military victories. It really is absolutely miraculous. And finally, here I am in Jerusalem at the World Zionist Congress. Now, contrary to what many people believe, this is not a gathering of some Zionist cabal where we decide to take over the world and control the media and all those other ridiculous accusations. This is a meeting of organizations like my very own WITZO, the Women's International Zionist Organization, where we look at ways of improving the situation on the ground for the people of Israel, looking at ways to educate young Jews, how we fight anti-Semitism, all the practical things that we are doing. So we won't be discussing how to control the world. Unfortunately, that is not a session that is scheduled, contrary to popular belief. But Zionism, in a nutshell, is the Jewish people's national self-determination in our ancestral and ancient homeland. It is the belief in the right of Israel to exist. We have Jews, Zionists from all strata, from women's organizations to religious Zionists, to leftist Zionists, to more right-leaning Zionists, centrist Zionists, to Zionist youth, and everyone in between. And you know what? You don't even have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. If you believe in Israel's right to exist, you, my friend, are a Zionist. So before I log off for today, I just want to take the audience question, and it comes from Hillary. And Hillary, my apologies for not taking your question last week, who asks very, very pertinently, how worried is Israel about Hezbollah in the north? Now, Hillary, we are keeping a beady eye on Hezbollah, and yes, we have the agreements in place, and we have the Lebanese army, but we know the beast that we are dealing with in Hezbollah, and we are watching very carefully. And wherever we see a violation of the ceasefire agreement, Israel is striking. We are drilling for any October the 7th type eventuality. Just because we've defanged them and just because we have a ceasefire in place doesn't mean that we are going to take our eyes off them for even 1 second. So we are watching developments with Hezbollah very, very carefully, and will strike whenever is needed. So, guys, that's it from me for today. Don't forget to join me again tomorrow. In the meantime, please check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. If you want to receive our weekly newsletter, please be in touch with us via our website. We are on Facebook at Lottel's site, on YouTube right here at the Israel Brief. And if you like our content, please hit that subscribe button. We are on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, and usually on LinkedIn and on Substack at Rolene Marks. And guys, that's pretty much it for me for today. So I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.